John Barnes took the football world by storm when he made his debut for Watford in 1983, scoring 13 goals in 36 league appearances in his first season. It was the perfect foundation for his move to Liverpool 5 seasons later, where he established himself as one of the club's greatest ever players, and also as an elite international footballer, representing England 79 times, scoring 10 goals in the process. Today, John Barnes joins me on the podcast.
This episode of All Things Business, the podcast, is brought to you by our digital media partner, DFA Law. DFA Law, providers of expert and dedicated legal advice to businesses and families since 1838. DFA Law, the law firm for life.
John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I wish it could be on the better circumstances.
Well, yeah, we'll go straight
Next
in
time.
then.
Next time.
Obviously, a wonderful career, but we're going to talk about some of the headlines that you've made recently, or not made, but have been spoken about you, articles that have been circulated online. So take us back to where it first began, if you like, John.
Well, why I wanted to do this to begin with is because obviously, I've had financial issues now for 8, 9, 10 years, and lots of stuff has been written, and I've kept quiet. But recently, I've been misrepresented in terms of the way that situation is. That's the reason I've come, because, I know I have these obligations to HMRC, and I've been trying for the last 7 years to meet them. I've been talking to them. I've been paying them, as much as these stores have been coming out saying, I owe this and I haven't paid that. And we're going to go through that in a minute. But just to go back to the history of it was obviously, footballers make a lot of money. And as much as you look at footballers now, I was the first £10,000 a week player, which I benefited from for a few years. So the whole 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grand, and even more now, I never saw that. So yes, I did make a lot of money. And I made a lot of mistakes financially from an investment point of view, as a lot of people have. So the investments I made as to coffee in Brazil, I got caught up in a Ponzi scheme in Jamaica. I don't even remember the Bernie Madoff situation, where I probably lost in a period of 4 years, probably about £1 million and £1.5 million. Now, when I finish playing, obviously then you have to work and pay tax on, rather than was your footballer, you just take it out of your salary. Now, when this money I had, be it from savings or be it from policies or be it from pensions, which my pension is now gone. I mean, it's gone 8, 9 years ago, so I never had that pension because that all went back to be paying HMRC or investments. When all of that went, I then got left with probably 2017 tax bill from, say, 2011, 12, 13.
Take me back to some of those investments, because it's too familiar for elite level sports people that get burnt, basically, because either people that they trust or that their friends have done it and therefore they follow suit.
Well, I think they
just elaborate on a couple of those.
I mean, the thing about it is that I don't think that happens now because they get proper advice. But of course, this was in the early days when everybody was an expert into where to put your money and what to do with it. So they sold me on this coffee in Brazil, which is great. And of course, in Jamaica, where my family are from, there was a huge, in the Caribbean, generally speaking. I don't know if you've seen the one on cricket with Sanderson.
Okay.
Yeah? Did you see that?
Yeah.
The man who bought cricket. It was a similar thing in the Caribbean when they were saying you can get 20% returns, blah, blah, blah. And I had invested a lot of money into that, which obviously went pear-shaped. So there were some bad investments I made. And then once I then had to try, and once these tax bills started coming in, I said, well, how can I recoup this money? So, of course, I made some other investments and had been avoiding, I don't mean tax avoidance, I mean HMRC were coming and said, we owe this money for probably a couple of years, thinking that, well, this is going to come good, then I'll just be able to pay it off. Until 2017, when there was very little I had left, I said, well, let me talk to HMRC and try and get to an arrangement, either to pay off what I owe or pay per month, and since 2016, that has been the situation of me speaking to HMRC regularly and making payments to HMRC to bring my liabilities down.
So in total, how much have you paid to HMRC in tax?
Well, I can only talk from in the 2013, I made a payment of 123,000, but notwithstanding that, forget about that. From 2017, the 10th of the 2nd, 2017, until 2024, I paid £2.25 million. And I have it all in my statements, and it's interesting because I didn't know how much I'd paid. And I just went through it. And I'll just give you a few examples here. 10th of the 2nd, 2017, I paid 160,000. 20th of the 11th, 15,000. 20th of the 7th, 2017, 30,000. 2nd of the 3rd, 2018, 90,000. 27th of the 4th, 2018, 90,000. I mean, I can go through. I can go through all of them there.
Yeah, I've seen them before.
And so 97,000 on the 8th of the 8th. So this is all 76,000 on the 13th of the 12th, 2018. 60,000, 2019. 42,000, 2019. I mean,
the list goes on.
The list goes on.
But
now,
the bottom line is it's 2.2 million.
2.2 million. But that's what I owe. And what has happened is that from 2017, when I've been served petitions, I've gone to court to be able to pay it because I didn't want to be made bankrupt, because I know how hard it is for people. I don't want to say, oh, you know, there are loopholes and I can do this and I can get away with that. And if I'm made bankrupt, I can keep my assets, because until 2017, I had up until 2017. And when I decided now to go through this payment plan to try and pay them, I sold everything. I haven't got any assets. I sold a cottage I had, my pension went, my you also have policies, insurance policies. I had an Aviva policy worth 50,000. Anything I made was to pay HMRC. But unfortunately, what was happening was, as soon as I paid them, because I had to pay corporation tax and VAT, then self-assessment, and then his director's loan, if I got a petition for VAT, I'd pay the VAT, but then all of a sudden they'd come back 6 weeks later and say, oh, but what about a corporation tax? So that petition was then squashed. And normally people go to court to try and not pay. I went to court to say, please let me pay. Don't make me bankrupt, because I don't want to be made bankrupt. And until 2017, people would have said, when you become bankrupt, they take your assets. But after 2017, I had no assets. I've sold everything to pay HMRC. And my wife hasn't got anything in her name. My kids have nothing in their name. And all of this money from 2017 is to pay HMRC.
And if you look online, some sites report that you've been made bankrupt, but that isn't the case.
No, I've been taken to court many times to be made bankrupt, and I've been celebrating the fact that I haven't been made bankrupt, and they're allowing me to pay the money that I owe. That's what I've been. I mean, me and my wife and the lawyers are hugging each other, because not that I haven't got to pay anything, but they are allowing me to pay them, be it through a monthly installment, be it through paying them upfront. And so the money I've earned since 2017, sometimes you earn some money. You go to the World Cup, you will then be paid. Unfortunately, I have to pay 20%, 50% on that. So I then owe them 20% later on down the line. So I've been whittling it down to just 24. Because in 2023, I paid on the 2nd of the 6th, 2023, £345,000. On the 16th of February, 2023, I paid £100,000. On the 30th of November, £270,000. 21st of November, 2023, £138,000. So that's 345, 445. That's £700,000 just in 23-24. This is also back payments. Obviously, it's not just for 23-24. The point I'm making is that I have been trying, and I have been making payments to them
consistently.
So this is the only reason I'm doing it now, because these stories for the last X amount of years has been, in fact, the last one in the Telegraph was saying I owe 1.5 million. I wish I did, because then they would owe me £700,000 because I've paid 2.2. Then, so these stories are coming out, and I don't want hardworking people thinking that I've got all this money and I'm not paying taxes and I've got this. So all my assets have gone. So therefore, it will be easy for me to go bankrupt, because they can't take anything from me.
Context, I think, is really important in life in general, but in particular in your case, there's certain headlines that have been reported that aren't quite the truth, hence why we're doing this today. But I want to bring you to one quotation. I wish I had enough money. Just talk me through that and when that was.
That really, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was last week in the Telegraph. In fact, when I got this last petition, in fact, I got it on Monday. I've got it here, the petition.
Dated, on
Monday. The court case is coming up in about a month. It's dated the 8th of August, but I didn't get it because I was away. But then it was in a newspaper before that, this petition. So when he got it on Monday, was delivered on Monday. And the report in the Telegraph, in 2023, because I had to do an interview with HMRC, a telephone interview to go through what I'd owned on the finances and the director's loan and the old media company, which was dormant and doesn't even exist since 2017. And I said in that interview that I hate not having enough money to be able to pay my liabilities, my tax liabilities. So I hate not having enough money to be able to pay my taxes. But it was just reported was, I hate not having enough money. And that was in quotations. And what has been happening over the years is that there's been lots of quotes attributed to me, which, have only come from one place. But this is not an attack on the HMRC, because it's obvious that I owe this money, and a lot of the money I owe is to do with late payments, fines, and interest on money. So I'm going to end up paying, and I have paid much more than I originally owed, if you like, insofar as I've got an interest payment of nearly 50%.
So John Barnes, known globally, okay, football, working class sport from a spectator perspective, but you're one of those names that everybody can associate a particular goal or pass or performance with. How does it make you feel when you see some of these comments online and also in the broadsheets and the tabloids where you're being perceived as the man that isn't paying his tax bill?
And this is why I'm doing this now. It's got nothing to do with John Barnes, footballer. I'm not validated by the fact that I played for England. I'm quite happy to drive a small car, and if I live like a normal person. So therefore I have one account, and if I have to, this is how people live. People don't have investments. People don't have pensions. People don't have that. Now, while I had that in the past and I've got it now, it doesn't make me feel depressed, because I know I'm very fortunate to have done what I did, even to have what I have now. Even with these problems, I'm better off than 99% of people, because I'm still able to work. And I'm working to try and pay off my tax bills. The problem I'm having is that there are times when it has affected my work, because a lot of contracts I had have been cancelled over the last 4 or 5 years because of this negative publicity of me not wanting to pay my taxes that has come out in the newspaper. And I'm talking about more than 100, 200,000 pounds where I've been supposed to, because I do a lot of talks and diversity inclusion, and particularly in banks and stuff like that. And banks can't be associated with somebody who's not paying his taxes. Yeah. So that's why I've kept quiet.
But you are paying your taxes.
I'm trying to, and I've paid, as you see that, and I'm coming to an agreement with them, but it's just making it very, very difficult. And once again, I can't blame HMRC, because I have to pay this, but it's the way it's actually reported in terms of what I'm actually doing.
And finally, as we sort of come to an end, John, how are you? Because I can't imagine for 1 minute that this would have been plain sailing for you. Where everybody, doesn't matter how much money you earn, everybody has daily and weekly life struggles and stresses. What sort of impact has this had on you?
It's had, apart from a few sleepless nights, it hasn't had a major impact on me, because I look at the way the world is, and I look at people struggling much worse than me. And as long as I'm able to work and to pay, and as much as the work I'm doing is to get money to pay off, as I'm doing now with paying £10,000 a month, which means that obviously I don't earn £20,000 a month, which means that I'm going to have tax issues down the line. But I've whittled it down, what I thought I whittled it down to maybe 1 year. So this new thing is a bit of a blow. But I'm able to still work. And but I just want to assure people, this is the reason I'm doing this, because the narrative around me, for example, just in the last thing in the Telegraph, which is probably an old story, which was maybe 2 years ago, that I owed 1.5 million, because if they knew how much I'd actually paid, I would have paid that off. And as I said, I've been so fortunate in my life, and even now when I'm going through all of this, to be able to still work and to pay my bills, apart from the HMRC, which I'm still trying to pay. And, my kids have a roof over their head for now, and, I can put food on the table. And I look around other areas and I see how hard it is for people. So it's not an issue. And this is really the only reason I'm doing this. The only reason, because that last story that came out, people have been saying things. It said, 1.5 million and I've paid 60,000, it said. So if people are looking at that, they're going to think, there's John Barnes, superstar with all this money hiding it. So
it's just not the case.
That's not the case at all, no.
Okay. Well, John, thank you for taking the time to come and see us, and well done, and all the best.
Thank you.